The island of Makati um, and the settlement, um, of course, dates much earlier than 1823. But what happened in 1823 was the year that the British purchased the island from the King of Catawba for the sum of $150 to use the island for two purposes. One, as a mercantile hub for British commercial interests along the river Gambia, and two, as a settlement for the freed slaves, because this was just a decade and a half after the abolition of the Atlantic slave trade. You had tens of thousands of former enslaved peoples who had nowhere to go. Some had been rescued by the Royal Navy from the slave ships. Some had been freed in Jamaica, in other parts of the Caribbean, in Canada, in the US. And there was a lot of debate as to what to do with these formerly enslaved people. So the island was purchased largely to be a settlement for these desperate, despairing, and if I may say, bedraggled, formerly enslaved peoples. That is what we are celebrating. So in essence, we are celebrating the settlement, freedom, homecoming. Okay. We are also, celebrating the fact that these people, okay, despite their very, very humble, background and the suffering and the trauma that they went through, during their, days, of enslavement, we are able to rise up, start a new life, and also become leading citizens of this country. These people we today call the Aku, or the Creole, you see. So, we are also celebrating, tolerance and harmony and good neighborliness. Because like you said, when these, liberated Africans arrived on the island, there was a small, population of indigenous, Marabus, who ran, like an Islamic school, like a Dara, called limaniyaa, on the island, okay? But when these people came, they hosted them, so to speak, lived with them side by side, they established their own church, they established their own school, they established businesses, and evolved, as, like a hardworking, prosperous.
1823 was when the island changed hands, so to speak.
Yeah, from the King of Catawba.
Yes.
Who was the sovereign, to the British.
You are right.
Yes.
But earlier than that, or much earlier than that, I believe there were attempts by the British to procure the island. Then the person they were negotiating with, and I believe the transaction was between the British and, I believe, the King of Niani, or the ruler of Niani.
Yeah. Well, yes. The British had developed interest in occupying Makati Island since 1788. Because in that year, some British agents came to the island so as to purchase it for use as a penal colony, because the prisons in Britain were overflowing, with convicts. So there was a lot of outcry from the human rights groups, from the philosophers, okay, that something should be done to decongest the British prison population. So the idea was for Makati Island to be used to offload, some of this excess prison population in the UK,